What's up, fam? Welcome to the Simplified Church podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. Man, I'm pumped to be getting into our conversation today because this is one of those conversations where you can send this to everybody on your team. Whether you've got folks that are scheduling volunteers, you've got folks that are leading strategic ministries, you've got, lay leaders, elders, other paid staff people. This is one of those episodes where it's an opportunity to create some really great conversation, some dynamic back and forth around how we handle our scheduling, how we handle our summer, the way that we think about programming in our church. So this can be one of those really cool nuts and bolts. We're going to get into the weeds kind of episodes, and I'm pumped for it. But man, I'm just so thankful for all of you that listen to this show each and every week. For those of you that have rated us, that have, really helped get this content out in front of other pastors. So please continue to do that because we just want to put more resources in the hands of everyday leaders just like you. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for being a part of this family. Thanks for seeing the value and how God's been using the Simplified podcast. It's been really, really fun to be a part of that. And so, man, I don't want to speak for Greg, but I'm going to. Greg and I, we love what we get to do and how we get to encourage and resource and equip. And even now we're doing it with this little new avenue for us where we're putting our shows on YouTube. And so typically Greg and I we look like a couple of homeless dudes sitting in our desks or in our basements or wherever. And, we're just kind of talking to each other like two brothers having a great conversation. But, man, the chief simplifier, Josh Henry, was like, hey, I think people want to see what's going on here. I disagreed. I didn't think anybody want to see what I got going on because I literally look like I just escaped from some sort of prison from the 1800s with this beard and this little thing I got happening here on my face, this face animal. But he was like, let's get it on YouTube. So I said, all right, man, we'll get it on YouTube. So that's another way for you to check out the show. You can watch. I don't know, there's not much to look at, but what you do get to look at, it's kind of fun. So make sure that you check us out on YouTube. You can head over and search for Simplified Church, and you can follow along there. Another great way to engage. And excited to have my guy, my man, Greg, double G Greg, on the show today. And Greg's he's remote today. He's out in the wild. He's left the confines of his office and has some incredible accompaniment music going on behind him. But Greg's were you at a Starbucks there, bud?
I am.
Okay.
It was close and open.
Close and open. All right. Well, that's better than like a gas station bathroom, I guess. So.
Well, that was the next option.
That was it. First Starbucks, if it's closed. All right. I forget what all the big gas station chains are out there. What are some of the big ones that are still around? Like, is it Mobile on the Run and
Love's?
Oh yeah, the classic highway bathrooms, Love's and
Flying J.
Flying J. Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah. Anyway, well, Greg, what are you sipping on there, brother? What do you got?
Oh, just a little drip. Nothing exciting.
Okay. What's your favorite type of roast from a Starbucks?
I'm partial to their blonde roast.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty solid. Can't go wrong with that.
They can't mess it up, man. They can't mess it up.
It's all good there. Well, no matter what you're enjoying today, a nice cup of coffee, or you're sitting with a glass of iced tea, whatever you got going on, we're going to get into some nuts and bolts and talking about summer, because we are quickly approaching, and we are about to get into it. And there's a couple interesting things about summer, right? Like, we know that most all churches experience that summer slump. We talk about it. I know, like, Greg, you've been there, bro. Like, we've been in that place where we see the standards, right? Like, we see a drop in attendance, we see a drop in giving, and we tend to just see a drop in overall focus. You know what I mean? Like, people just, for whatever reason, it feels like, and again, there are exceptions to the rule, but it just feels like for most folks, we're prioritizing time with our family and vacations and trying to squeeze in some stuff, enjoying the summer months. And so maybe our focus isn't nearly as intent as it is during the school year, when it comes to church and our involvement. So we've kind of affectionately in the church world have dubbed it that summer slump, and that's just kind of where we go. And I think what's fascinating about it is it seems like it's always this problem that needs a solution instead of just being a tension that needs to be managed. And I think the reality is you got to kind of come to grips with the summer slump and not fight against it. Actually, I would contend, and here on the Simplified Church podcast, Greg and I would contend you embracing the summer slump is a far better strategy than always trying to be fussy and fight against it. Like honestly, it's not a bad thing. And I'll tell you why. Because slowing down can be anticipated. Like you can forecast, like, oh man, we know people are going on trips. We know these key volunteers are going to be camping. We know we're going to see a dip in our giving. And so you can kind of anticipate that. You can plan for it, but you can also enjoy the summer slump because things do slow down a little bit. And it does give you an opportunity to maybe spend some time with some people that you haven't had a chance to do in a while, to dig in with your family, or I don't know, just to kind of get creative. And so I don't know about where you are right now, pastor, leader, church volunteer. Maybe you've got your whole summer planned out and you are the Greg of church calendaring. You've had your lists on lists and you've got all of summer planned out. Or maybe you were a lot like I was, where we knew when VBS was going to be. And if we had some mission trips scheduled, those dates were on the calendar. And if we were sending kids to camp, we had the hat trick, the holy trinity of summer calendars all planned out: vacation, Bible school, mission trips, and camp. So maybe that's you. But the question then comes, like, what about the rest of the time? And I know those things are huge, like time vacuums. Like I get that. Sometimes it takes a lot of people a lot of work. But what about the rest of the time? So the question then becomes is like, how can we actually make the most of our summer calendar? How can we be intentional with that summer slump and do some things? Greg, for you guys at your church, and maybe even just in the past, have you experienced that notion of the summer slump? Is it pretty consistent? Is it something you can forecast? What's that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think we've kind of tried to embrace it and just say, you know what, we know it's coming. There's not a lot that we can do about it. We're not going to change people's plans, so let's play to it. And so, yeah, like you said, we put the big things on the calendar, the big rocks, and then we try to make sure that the other things that we try to do, that they're low investment but high impact. And so, what are the easy things that we can do? Like we're getting ready to do our place a guitar camp for junior high school students.
Oh, I like that.
That was super low buy-in for us, outside of providing the space and the time and the instructor. Everything else was already set up for us.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about what that maybe will mean. This is going to be our first go with it, so we'll see how it goes. But those are the kind of things that we look for in the summer to be able to say, what are the things that we can do that might have really big impact, but don't require a whole lot of effort? Because volunteers are at a premium, people being present is at a premium, so how do we leverage that?
That's good, man. I totally agree. Like that's a reality. And look, it's what you said, right? You said we thought through this and we knew we needed something that had the most bang for our buck. We wanted the largest ROI we could get with the least amount of investment on the front end because we knew those resources were going to be slim. You were surprised by that. You're like, hey, let's do a guitar camp. And then we get to summer and you're like, oh man, nobody wants, like, no, you knew already. And everybody listening to the show understands that, can relate to that. You can forecast these things. This is human behavior unfolding in a reality and in a space that we can anticipate. I love the intentionality on that. And so that's what I want to do. I want to get into how we can make the most of our summer, whether it's doing some of these like guitar camps, some of these other cool things. But what we're going to do is we're going to break this out over kind of 3 different categories. So we're going to be talking about kids, like how to really leverage opportunities to reach kids and young families over the summer, which you may be thinking that's impossible. It's actually not. You have to think outside the box a little bit, right? I want to talk about how we can get into really being strategic with community building events. Those high relational impact opportunities, ways to get people on your campus during the summer, which is kind of cool. And then lastly, this is a bit of a curveball, but I think this will be cool, man, for us to talk about what summer needs to look like, what that schedule needs to look like for you as a lead pastor, as someone who maybe is overseeing a lot of ministry. Maybe you're overseeing a large staff. Whatever your role is, what does the summer schedule need to look like for you as a leader, as a pastor, and what does it need to look like for your team? And I think that's an important conversation that I want to get into today a little bit. So we're gonna kind of unpack these three categories together. So if you want to grab something, to write some things down with, but as always, go back and listen to some of these episodes and pull out some of these things. I think it can be helpful to create conversations. I don't think that we're experts and we've got everything figured out and just, all right, everybody just listen to us. Everybody listen to us. We got this thing figured out. No, it's just, we want to create conversation. Greg says false. I do got it.
I'm an expert.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks, right there. It is self-proclaimed, signed, sealed, and delivered. Greg, the expert. I like it. That's good, man. And he is. Oftentimes, in everything that we talk about, Greg is way smarter than me. So there's no question. But what we hope to do is actually just generate some conversation for you and your team, because I think it's important to have maybe some of that outside perspective. So let's jump into this first category. Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about some fun and creative ways that you can reach families, establish some relationships. So I've got just a handful of things I want to talk through with you. First is think outside the box and consider utilizing day trips, right? Like I'm talking like low cost, low barrier day trips that someone on your team can organize. This is a great way to get other female leaders in your church involved. This is a great way to get other wives of other staff people involved. This is a great way to get some folks connected and plugged in that, trips to the zoo, going bowling, the farmer's market, kids museums, parks. Maybe you live in a rural context or you're just way too far away from anything fun or cool. I get that. I did ministry like that where everything fun to do is an hour away, right? But you got to get creative. And so utilizing a park, maybe a local splash pad, trying to find some things that where they're running like those deals, like, hey, on this day we're running a promotion, or it can be free for those families. And so it's super low barrier, or forecast your budget and do some subsidizing. Do some subsidizing to help, work through bringing that cost down for some families. Another couple things to consider. Yeah, go ahead, Greg. What do you got?
I was going to say, lots of places will now put together lists of either free or no cost activities in your region. Now, I'm spoiled where I am in the Metro East of St. Louis. Like, we have so many things that are free, from the zoo to the science center and things like that.
Yep.
But utilize those things. Tap into teachers. They know what things are available and are low cost that you can do that are those kind of day trip kind of things that just give you big opportunity. Even just, like you say, something as simple as, hey, we're going to go to the park and we're going to play.
Yeah,
can be huge for getting your people together and letting them do life together.
And you just never know, like, how much that could mean to a mom, especially, or a young family that just feels like they're not connecting, they're not building relationships, right? They're struggling, and so it can be very life giving. You're exactly right. There are places, sometimes even like local libraries have put together lists, and so I know that in this culture, in this day and age, libraries are becoming more and more of a point of contention and controversy in our communities. But for a lot of us, we still live in areas where libraries are very community driven, right? And have some really cool opportunities. And so just check out those places, be discerning about that. A couple of things, on the same lines is doing a story hour or creative play at your building. Or if you want to meet a local coffee shop, but just putting together opportunities to read to kids. And so you can call it some really cool Bible stories. I love the Jesus Storybook Bible. That's really cool to get kids together and talk about the gospel and all these Bible stories and how they connect. You can do fun themes with that. You can do fun crafts. You can do STEM activities. Like you can for seriously low investment, high impact. You could pull together a really cool creative hour and story time. We've done some things like that in the past in ministry that have been very fruitful. I love campouts, man. Who doesn't love a camp out in the summertime? And so father-son type opportunities, family campouts, worship nights, all church camp out like a state park, or even on your campus. I don't know where your church is. Maybe it's in a spot where it's like, no, this is not a safe place to camp overnight. But find a spot that is. Some little campouts and stuff. Do you guys do anything like that, Greg? Because you're in a little bit of a bedroom community that has some rural, kind of connections to it. Do you guys do any campouts or anything like that?
Our students, so our junior high school students usually will have a spring camp out before school
Oh, I love that.
lets out. But I don't know that we do anything with that over the summer. But we do have a couple of really prime locations near us that do like day camps and things like that that some of our people plug into. And so we try to leverage that a little bit.
It's cool.
But I want to go back just a second to what you were talking about books. Let me encourage you, if you have the opportunity, the Good Book Company has a series called Tales That Tell the Truth. Tales That Tell the Truth. My kids love them. They're some of the best illustrated kids books that I've seen. And they tell wonderful stories that point kids to the gospel. And so if you haven't checked those out, you should check those out. They're well worth it.
I'm going to add that to the show notes, bro. That's a great suggestion. That's the Good Book Company, Tales That Tell the Truth. Yeah, very cool. I'll add it to the show notes. There'll be a link down there so you can, when you're finished, go back and check that out. But yeah, I love the story hour times. I love those creative play times where you can get kids together and captivate them with the gospel. Is cool. Campouts are a lot of fun. And this one's a really cool outreach opportunity. Man, just a great way to connect students and get some other people in your church involved that maybe have some more margin and free time. But doing a Mom's Day Out where you can find some qualified, background checked volunteers that can give moms like a 3-hour break. And there's some creative things you can do with that. Number one, you could do that just a monthly deal if you wanted to. And you pick a morning and say, all right, from this time to this time, we can take up to this many kids. And so we're going to have plenty of qualified, safe volunteers here to watch these children in a controlled, safe environment while moms get a 3 to 4 hour break to go out and do your thing. You can get some retired folks that can come help and plug in with that. And it's also a great way for students to earn money toward camp. Okay, where you don't charge the moms anything, you credit kids that time from the budget. And that is a great way to get some students involved and just say, hey, look, camp's coming up, CIY is coming up, your mission trip's coming up, whatever you're doing, you can earn, $100, for coming and helping out over the course of the summer. Like, that's great. That's money you can get back toward credit, or, that's a lot of Mountain Dew and beef jerky, man, at a gas station, not for my son. That's a one tripper. But for the average person, that's a lot you can get there, which is pretty cool.
I saw a meme the other day that said regardless of how old you are, every road trip, you should come out of the gas station looking like you just gave a 10-year-old $100.
It's so true.
To get snacks.
I feel that way. I feel like because we went to we got a place up here in Columbus, Ohio, not too far from us. And to make a short story long, we stopped and we went to a place called COSI, which is this really cool kids museum. It's very interactive, high science. It's a really, really fun spot. On the way back, we stopped at a gas station and got some snacks, and we were kind of talking about that. And I was like, even though we packed lunch and we did all this other stuff to keep the trip affordable for us, I said, is it even a road trip if you didn't stop and buy snacks? It's not. I don't know what it is, but it's not a road trip. So I totally affirm that. Like, yeah, it's good, but it's a great way to get kids involved, right? Get students involved, make things like that happen. So those are some simple ways to make the most of your summer as it relates to kids and young families, man, young moms especially. These are simple, practical things that you can do that you don't have to have a lot of buildup for. You can experiment with, which is really great. And that's what's fun about this, kind of portion of the summer calendar is you can be really experimental with it. You can get away with stuff. You can get away with stuff not working and tanking in the summertime, where it's, man, if you pull off something like this in the fall and it didn't work, well, you've spent a lot of capital, right? Like what John Maxwell talks about, that leadership capital principle. So it's summer's a great time to experiment and have some fun with. So let's kind of continue that conversation. Let's talk about some community building events. And there's like no end to a list of ideas that exist out there. We're going to give you just a few because, again, these are, like what Greg said, these are, man, high impact, low investment. A couple things you can do to build community, both inside your church and outside the walls of your church in the neighborhoods that you serve. Movie nights on the lawn. Families love those stuff, that kind of stuff. Usually parks will do that kind of stuff too. Yeah.
But please don't do the hokey Jesus movies.
That's a great word right there.
let them be fun family movies. Yes, be wise. Yes, make good choices about what movies you show, but show movies people want to see.
Yes. Yeah. Please listen to Greg. Again, he's an expert in this. Only show movies that people want to see. Stuff that kids love, like Highlander. What kid doesn't love? If you get that reference, we're friends. Okay, listener, just so you
There
know.
can be only one.
There can be only one. That's great, man. Yeah. So, and cool things you can do with movie nights on the lawn is you can theme those out, especially if you pick the right movie. And we used to do drive-ins where kids would come early and you get cardboard boxes and you built your car that you sat in for the movie, which is super fun. You can even make that like a weekend project, and those kids can bring their cars back. And so, I don't know, that's kind of fun stuff like that. Summer music night series, or like a summer nights music collaboration where you can get worship nights. You can get local bands to come in as long as, music's appropriate and stuff, but you can bring local bands in. And people love that stuff, man. String up the lights, get the bonfire going, set up an outdoor PA system, and bring in some local music. Oh my gosh, people love that. Sports nights. I used to love doing these, like 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, cornhole. We used to do kickball tournaments where you'd form kickball teams and come in, and we did prizes and stuff, man. That was always a great time. And if you've never seen Greg play kickball, you've not lived, because it is a sight to behold.
It's true. The only thing that's better than seeing me play kickball is watching me play pickleball, because that's the new thing, bro. If you're not playing pickleball, you're missing out.
You're not living. You're not living. I love doing water wars, and especially kids love this stuff. Families love this. A lot of fun.
You might be able to connect with the local fire department.
Yep.
I know when I was a youth guy, the local fire department would come out, bring their big tanker truck, and they would push. We had the giant ball.
Oh, yeah.
And they would spray it with the hose, and the kids could push it against the hose. It gives them an opportunity to get their gear out and train new volunteers and that kind of thing, if it's a volunteer fire department especially. But the worst thing that happens is you call them, they say no, but they might say yeah.
And usually they will. And the fact is, a lot of times they don't need a lot of lead time on it. A lot of times they've got openings throughout the summer where they're trying to build more community relation, and the church is a great pathway for that. Sometimes even those churches have, or not the churches, but the fire departments have those simulation smokehouses, where usually like the main hub of whatever department, they'll bring those and kids can go through it, and it simulates what it's like to have an actual fire in your home and stuff. So, it like checks so many boxes. But I love the water wars days. You can rent those inflatables pretty affordably, water balloon fights, that kind of stuff. And just some other simple things, gang, in terms of like building community. 4th of July stuff. Like, you've got these natural rhythms. Not a lot of, some folks travel during the summer, but there's also a lot of folks that don't. And they're just hanging out looking for things to do. So pulling off a cookout around July 4th, especially if your town does fireworks, do that, men's nights and ladies' nights. We did a couple back-to-back where we built axe throwing platforms and had a women's night and a ladies' night. And we grilled out and did food, and they threw axes and had a great time. Nobody died. It was a lot of fun. There was blood. There was a lot of blood, but nobody died.
That was always my evaluating process when I was a youth guy. Nobody died. Very little blood.
Very little, yeah. Like a crime scene investigator would have a good time here. However, everyone survived. So, man, and again, those are easy nights, right? You may not get the biggest turnout that you're hoping for, but again, change your metrics. Like, reevaluate what you consider a success. If you can get, 15, 20, 30 guys together in July or August for a guys' night just to hang out, to cook and do whatever, that's a good time.
And what an easy way to get your men or your ladies to invite others in.
Yep.
With very little pressure. Hey, it's not going to be a bait and switch where you get a 45-minute sermon or where you're going to have to sign a card or anything. Just
exactly.
Hey, we just want you to come hang out, get to know people, spend time together. That's a win-win. Leverage the summer for that.
Yep. Uh, that's so good, dude, because it is a low barrier to invite people to. And I've seen it time and time again where, and honestly, like I've had other buddies that have served at churches or been at churches, and they've invited me to their men's night. And I was pastoring at a different church, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go to that. That sounds like a blast. And you go, and it's a great time. Right. So these are just some of the things that you can do to build community, and obviously looking for local service projects. Your city has always got a long list of stuff that they can't get done that needs to get done. There's always ways to build community and to get people involved that they're not traveling, they're around. And so those are just some kind of cool ways. So we've talked about how to get kids connected and young families connected. We've talked about how to build community strategically with these kind of really high impact, low investment opportunity ideas. And again, maybe you've got some of this stuff planned, maybe you don't, but plan more than what you need, because you never know what's going to shake out. It could become part of a new rhythm for your church. You might come across an idea and you're like, wow, that went so well. And there was such great feedback. This is going to become part of what we're going to do this monthly now, and watch that kind of thing grow. You never know. You never know how that's going to turn out. But the last thing I want to talk about kind of before we land the plane today, and Greg, I'm excited to hear what you think about this, bro, because I think this is super important. Is as much as we're talking about how to like fill that summer calendar, I also want to be cognizant of what the summer does provide and what it does afford. That summer slump, is it does give us opportunities to be strategic with time off, restful time as a team that maybe we don't always get during the school year. And so I'm kind of curious, before I kind of give what I think are our 2 cents is on this. Does your church do anything different time wise? Are the expectations different for staff during the summer compared to like the rest of the year? Or is it pretty well kind of, like an unwritten, like, hey, if you want to take a little extra time here and there, go for it. What's that look like?
So I think it's both and. I do think that just because the weather is nice, our people take advantage more of that. Hey, you know what? I've got all my stuff done. I'm gonna, go whatever.
Yeah, I'm a scoot.
I'm gonna go
Take
play.
off.
I'm gonna go play golf. I'm gonna go fish. I'm gonna,
Yep.
Whatever. So I think that's a little bit more normal in the summer, only because the weather's so nice
Yep.
and not really having anything to do with more or less expectation. Now, when we had a full-time secretary, we did change our office schedule a little bit in the summer. We went from being open till noon on Fridays to not being open at all on Fridays in the office. But now that we have just part-time secretarial staff, we're only open till Thursday anyway, and it's only the mornings. So that kind of shift happened, but more because of staffing, not anything else. But other than that, we try to be pretty relaxed throughout the year anyway, and try to encourage our team to take good care of themselves, so that that they're well able to do the things that are before them. And then when the crazy weeks hit, they've had that buildup of rest a little bit, where they can, it's a crazy week. I just got to get it done, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I can, catch up on some of that time, later.
Yeah, I was talking to the student pastor at our church, and I was just like, man, what's the summer look like for you? And he's like, well, we've got 2 back-to-back weeks of camp. We got high school camp coming up. Then we've got middle school camp the following week. And then the third week, this is all like back to back to back, is VBS. And while he's not leading VBS, he is expected to be a part of it, to be present. And so I was like, dang, dude, 3 weeks. Are you taking some time? He's like, yeah, we just got back from vacation before all of this. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, you can plan for that. And you've got people on your team that understand the time sacrifice that's about to be made for almost the next month. And so being able to be strategic with that is huge. Some things that I think we want to encourage you, especially if you're in a seat of authority, or in a position where you can influence or impact this culture at your church. is to consider the summer scheduling for yourself and for your team. So a couple things that we would ask you to consider, and maybe just pray through or just have a conversation about. Or if you think, hey, this is totally dumb, email Greg, because he's the expert. He'll take it. So some shorter work weeks to encourage more family time. And so, yeah, maybe you're off on Friday and that sort of thing. Okay, cool. But maybe you just decide, hey, we're going to go Monday through Thursday, but we're done at noon. And so we're going to give everybody an extra half day to go and spend time with your families, or just rest, or do whatever you want. Another consideration might be is instead of that, because maybe the demands of your context doesn't afford that, we're just going to do an extra day off per month for the summer. And so we're going to shut down we're just going to shut down the office one extra day. And so that's our gift, right? That's our gift to the staff. It's our gift to leaders. It's, that kind of thing. I think that can be really helpful.
It can. I learned something from a guy that I worked for in the public sector a number of years ago that just really has stuck with me. And I've tried to do it when I am in a position where I can.
Sure.
There would be days that he would just show up and he'd walk in the workspace. It might be 11 o'clock in the morning. It might be noon. It might be 1 o'clock. And he just said, I don't want to see you anymore. Leave. Go home. I don't care what you do. Just don't stay here.
I love that.
And I've tried to do that when I can, to just, just on a whim. If it seems, man, it's a pretty day, y'all need to not be here. Go home. Nothing that we have going can't wait till tomorrow. Yep. And so even though, yeah, you can't plan for that, you can't, people can't make plans for how they're going to spend that time. Sometimes just knowing, hey, you're aware of what they're doing and you want to give them just some time to rest and enjoy.
It's huge.
Can mean way more than those times that you've scheduled for them to be gone.
Love that, man. That's really cool. Yeah, just walking in and as a gift, hey, the way you started that conversation, I thought you said this guy would just walk in and just fire people. Hey, I don't want to see you no more. Seriously, you're done here. Bag your things. Gosh, could you imagine how terrible that would be? Yeah, so I love that, man. Giving people an extra time off, extra opportunities. I think a couple of the options that you might want to consider putting on the table is shutting down the office like that last week of July. I used to love this rhythm back in the day because the office was closed between Christmas and New Year, and then 6 months. Every 6 months we just kind of purge and shut down the office and take some intentional time off, even if you got vacation or whatever else. It's closed. I also like the idea of adding through the summer, if you can't pull off some of those kinds of opportunities, or some all staff fun days. So go take in a ball game, go to Top Golf, go bowling, go grill out at somebody's house, do a pool party, get everybody together during the day. We're just going to hang out. We're going to order pizza at the church and watch a movie in the auditorium, if that doesn't get you fired. I don't know. I don't know what your rules are there, gang, but, just some sort of a fun day where you can go and have a good time. But I think the gist of what we're trying to get at is build in time for rest and fun. I cannot stress enough the theology of fun, which is something that we do not talk about in church, and we've really done a poor job of helping people understand. But laughter and fun, those chemical releases in your brain, you know what they do? They lower defenses, and they help us process through the things that we're wrestling with and that are challenged with, and they help us build trust relationally. And so fun is actually incredibly beneficial to have for your team. So taking time to do that. So these are just some things, gang. Like we don't have everything figured out. And this is just kind of a short half hour or so walk through of what are some ways that you can make the most out of that summer slump, make the most out of that summer schedule. And I would just encourage you to think through it and make some adjustments, kind of course correct a little bit so you can end the summer really well as we're about to kick it off. Greg, what are some other final encouragements and stuff from the Starbucks, from wherever you are? Could you give us just a good word of wisdom here to kind of end the show on?
Mike, I think you're absolutely right that we need to be a place where people gather not only to learn the things of God, but to together enjoy not only one another, but the wonderful thing that God has created that is life to the fullest. And that does mean fun. And so, yeah, embrace that, make that a part of what you are about. Because before you know it, the fall is going to be here, and then it's going to be, all hands on deck, running as fast as they can run, to do the things that you have set before you. So allow for that fun to happen
Man.
and foster it, so that people want to be on your team.
Yeah, I love that, dude. So that people want to be on your team. That's a good word, dude. Man, yeah, that's really, really good. All right, gang, thanks for listening to this week's show. As always, you can connect with us. Head over to our website, simplifiedchurch.com. We can get more information about the show. You can find show notes where you can get some of the links to some of the things we talked about today. But always, please, if you haven't done so, do us the favor, do us a solid, and leave us a review. Give us 5 stars there on the old Apple podcast, because it helps us tweak that algorithm just a little bit so that they're more inclined to get our content out in front of folks that want to listen to stuff like this. So please join the Simplify family. Help us out with that. You can email us, podcast@simplifiedchurch.com. All the fun ways to get in touch and to continue building this family in this community. But thanks for listening, gang. Hope you have a blessed week, and we'll see you next week.